Death Note stands as a masterpiece in the anime genre, not just for its intricate plot, but for its intense psychological battle between two of its central characters, Light Yagami and L. These two figures are iconic, each representing distinct ideologies and approaches to justice that compel viewers to question the very nature of morality. Light Yagami, a brilliant yet disillusioned high school student, discovers the Death Note, a notebook granting its user the power to kill anyone by simply writing their name in it. The discovery awakens in Light a sense of destiny, a belief that he has chosen to purge the world of evil and create a utopia where he reigns as a god. His transformation from an idealistic student into a megalomaniacal figure is both fascinating and terrifying. On the other hand, L, the enigmatic detective tasked with uncovering the identity of the mysterious killer Kira, stands as a foil to Light. With his unorthodox methods, childlike demeanor, and unparalleled intellect, L challenges Light's self-appointed role as judge, jury, and executioner. Their rivalry is not merely a conflict of personalities, but a philosophical battle that probes deeply into ethical and psychological questions. Light operates from a utilitarian framework, believing that sacrificing a few lives for the greater good is justified. His actions echo the consequentialist viewpoint that outcomes determine morality. L, in stark contrast, adheres to a deontological perspective, where the process and adherence to moral laws take precedence over the results. He refuses to compromise his principles, even if it means the world remains imperfect. The psychological complexity of their characters is rooted in real-world theories. Light's actions align with the concept of moral disengagement, as proposed by psychologist Albert Bandura. This theory suggests that individuals justify unethical behavior by reframing it as morally acceptable, distancing themselves from the harm caused. For Light, the deaths he orchestrates are not murders but necessary sacrifices for a noble cause. Conversely, L's skepticism and relentless pursuit of truth can be linked to traits of high-functioning paranoia, where an individual's constant questioning and analysis become their strength in navigating an uncertain world. Their dynamic also reflects Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. Light, in his young adulthood, grapples with the stage of identity versus role confusion. His adoption of the Kira persona is his attempt to define his place in the world, albeit through extreme measures. L, on the other hand, embodies a more mature stage, where his commitment to justice reflects a resolution of internal conflict and a dedication to a greater cause. The brilliance of Death Note lies in how it uses these two characters to mirror societal debates. Light's vision of a crime-free utopia at any cost forces viewers to confront the ethical limits of power and control. L's insistence on due process and moral accountability challenges us to consider whether justice can prevail in a flawed system. Together, they create a narrative that is as much about humanity's struggles with morality as it is about their personal battle of wits. This rivalry is also deeply personal. Both characters are driven by their own definitions of justice, yet their interactions reveal a mutual respect and an unspoken understanding of each other's genius. It's this nuanced relationship that makes their conflicts so gripping and psychologically profound. The stakes are not just about who will prevail, but about which ideology will shape the world they inhabit. As we delve into their characters and the ideologies they represent, it becomes clear that their story is a reflection of broader human conflicts. Their rivalry is timeless, resonating with anyone who has ever grappled with questions of right and wrong, justice and power. Light Yagami begins as an intelligent, disciplined, and morally upright high school student. With an extraordinary intellect and a promising future, Light seems destined for greatness. However, beneath this polished exterior lies a profound dissatisfaction with the world around him, a world he perceives as corrupt, unjust, and plagued by irredeemable criminals. The discovery of the Death Note serves as a catalyst, unleashing his latent desires and transforming him into the self-proclaimed savior of humanity. From the moment Light tests the Death Note's power, it becomes evident that his actions are not solely driven by altruism. His decision to execute a criminal live on television reveals a complex mixture of idealism and arrogance. Light sees himself as uniquely qualified to wield the power of the Death Note, believing that his superior intellect grants him the right to determine who deserves to live and die. This belief aligns with the psychological concept of illusory superiority, where individuals overestimate their abilities compared to others. Light's transformation into Kira represents the emergence of a classic God complex. Psychologically, this can be understood as an extreme form of narcissistic personality trait. Narcissistic tendencies, as described by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders DSM-5, include a grandiose sense of self-importance, a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success or power, and a lack of empathy. Light embodies all these traits as he descends further into his role as Kira. One of the most striking aspects of Light's character is his ability to rationalize his actions. He convinces himself and attempts to convince others that his killings are justified because they serve a greater good. This is a textbook example of cognitive dissonance, a psychological theory introduced by Leon Festinger. Light resolves the conflict between his initial moral upbringing and his murderous actions by reframing his killings as necessary and righteous. Over time, this justification becomes second nature, allowing him to carry out increasingly heinous acts without guilt or remorse. Light's manipulative tendencies also stand out. He exploits the people around him, including Misa Amane and his own father, using them as pawns to further his agenda. This manipulation underscores his growing detachment from humanity and his perception of others as mere tools. Light's ability to charm and deceive, while maintaining a facade of innocence, is reminiscent of traits found in Dark Triad Personalitisa, psychological framework comprising narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. As Light's ego grows, so does his inability to acknowledge his own vulnerability. He becomes overconfident, assuming that his intelligence and careful planning make him invincible. However, this overconfidence blinds him to the subtle moves of his adversary. Light's hubris mirrors the Greek concept of hamartia, or fatal flaw, which ultimately leads to his downfall. Comparing Light to real-world psychological theories, his behavior can also be analyzed through Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Initially, Light appears to operate from a desire to meet higher-level needs, such as self-actualization and morality. However, as Kira, his motivations regress to a lower level, focusing on power and control, a stark contrast to the ethical aspirations he once claimed to uphold. Furthermore, Light's descent into megalomania reveals a profound alienation from his humanity. His pursuit of perfection and order comes at the cost of his relationships and his own mental stability. By the end of the series, Light's once clear vision of justice becomes clouded by paranoia and desperation. This shift underscores a central theme in Death Note, the corrupting influence of absolute power. The tragedy of Light Yagami lies in his potential. He could have used his intelligence and drive to create positive change within the boundaries of the law. Instead, his unyielding belief in his own righteousness leads him to a path of destruction. Light's story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the seductive allure of power. Laliet, the enigmatic detective, is the polar opposite of Light Yagami in every conceivable way. While Light represents order through domination, embodies chaos through unconventional methods. From his disheveled appearance to his peculiar mannerisms, challenges societal expectations of how a brilliant mind should present itself. Yet, behind his eccentricity lies one of the sharpest intellects in anime history, a man wholly dedicated to justice, but in a way that defies norms and expectations. At first glance, L's behavior might seem quirky, or even childlike. His crouched sitting posture, preference for sugary treats, and minimal attention to personal grooming contrast sharply with Light's polished demeanor. However, these traits are not merely superficial. They are deeply tied to his methodology. Le's unusual habits reflect a mind that operates on a different wavelength from those around him. His ability to see beyond traditional frameworks enables him to detect patterns and behaviors that others overlook. Psychologically, L can be understood as a character driven by logical intuition. He relies heavily on inductive reasoning and instinct, which often leads him to conclusions that seem improbable but turn out to be accurate. For example, his immediate suspicion of Light as Kira, based on minimal evidence, demonstrates his ability to connect seemingly unrelated dots. This aligns with concepts in cognitive psychology, such as thin slicing, where individuals make quick decisions based on limited information with surprising accuracy. L's methods, while effective, often challenge ethical boundaries. He employs tactics such as public manipulation, intrusive surveillance, and even direct provocation to expose Kira. While these methods are morally ambiguous, they underscore L's pragmatic approach to justice. Unlike Light, who justifies his actions through a moral lens, L operates from a framework of utilitarianism, achieving the greatest good for the greatest number, even if it means bending the rules. What sets L apart from Light is his deep sense of empathy. Despite his aloof demeanor, L shows an understanding of human emotion that Light lacks. For instance, L's interactions with the task force reveal his ability to build trust, despite his secretive nature. This emotional intelligence is evident in his subtle acknowledgement of the personal sacrifices made by those around him, particularly Soichiro Yagami. L's empathy adds complexity to his character, as it contrasts with his cold, calculating exterior. From a psychological perspective, L's skepticism is a defining trait. He approaches every situation with a mindset of epistemic humility, the awareness of the limits of one's knowledge. This is evident in his insistence on verifying every detail and his refusal to jump to conclusions without substantial evidence. L's reliance on doubt as a tool is reminiscent of the scientific method, where hypotheses are rigorously tested and retested. This approach directly counters Light's absolute certainty in his moral superiority. L's eccentricity can also be analyzed through the lens of neurodiversity. While it is never explicitly stated, many fans and scholars have speculated that L might exhibit traits consistent with conditions such as Asperger's syndrome or obsessive-compulsive disorder (OCD). His hyperfocus, repetitive behaviors, and difficulty with social conventions suggest a mind wired for deep analytical thought but less attuned to social norms. Rather than being a limitation, these traits enhance L's effectiveness as a detective. One of the most poignant aspects of L's character is his loneliness. His brilliance sets him apart from others, creating a barrier that prevents meaningful connections. Despite this, L demonstrates a longing for companionship, as seen in his interactions with Light during their brief alliance. This dynamic adds a layer of tragedy to his character, as his relentless pursuit of justice isolates him from the very humanity he seeks to protect. Le's skepticism and analytical prowess are complemented by his willingness to take risks. Unlike Light, who meticulously plans every move, L thrives on improvisation and adaptability. This flexibility allows him to counter Kira's strategies effectively, even when operating with limited resources. However, L's reliance on risk also highlights his vulnerability. His calculated gambles expose him to danger, ultimately leading to his demise. In the broader context of psychology, L's character can be seen as a representation of the intellectual archetype. He values knowledge above all else and uses it as his primary weapon in the battle against Kira. This archetype, often associated with figures like Sherlock Holmes, embodies the idea that intellect and reasoning can triumph over power and authority. Legacy extends beyond his role as Kira's adversary. His unorthodox methods and unwavering commitment to justice challenge viewers to question the boundaries of morality and ethics. L forces us to consider whether the ends justify the means and whether true justice can ever be achieved in a flawed world. The rivalry between Light Yagami and L in Death Note is more than a mere battle of intellects. It is a profound clash of ideologies that delves into the nature of justice, morality, and human imperfection. Light and L represent two starkly opposing worldviews, one rooted in authoritarian control and the belief in moral absolutism, and the other grounded in skepticism and adherence to the rule of law. Their conflict is not just personal but philosophical, forcing viewers to grapple with the complexities of justice and the consequences of extremism. At the heart of Light Yagami's ideology is the belief in a utopia achieved through the eradication of evil. Armed with the Death Note, Light assumes the role of judge, jury, and executioner, convinced that his actions are for the greater good. However, this worldview reveals an inherent contradiction. By taking on the mantle of godhood, Light becomes the very embodiment of tyranny, disregarding the fundamental principles of justice, such as due process and the presumption of innocence. His belief in moral absolutism blinds him to his own fallibility, leading to a chilling dehumanization of those he deems unworthy of life. In contrast, L's ideology is founded on the principles of doubt and the pursuit of truth. He recognizes that justice cannot be reduced to a simplistic binary of good versus evil. For L, justice is a process of constant striving toward fairness and accountability, even in the face of uncertainty. His adherence to the rule of law underscores his belief that no individual, no matter how brilliant or well-intentioned, should hold absolute power. This philosophy places him in direct opposition to Light, who seeks to dismantle existing systems in favor of his own vision of order. From a psychological perspective, the clash between Light and L can be understood through the lens of moral psychology. Light embodies consequentialism, a framework that evaluates actions based on their outcomes. His justification for using the Death Note hinges on the idea that the ends eliminating crime and creating a peaceful world justify the means. However, this approach raises ethical dilemmas, as it allows for the violation of fundamental human rights in the pursuit of a perceived greater good. L, on the other hand, aligns more closely with deontological ethics, which emphasize the importance of rules and principles over outcomes. His refusal to compromise on his methods, even when faced with the immense challenge of capturing Kira, reflects his commitment to upholding justice as an ideal rather than a means to an end. This tension between consequentialism and deontology lies at the core of their conflict, highlighting the ethical complexities of their respective positions. The ethical dilemmas presented in their rivalry extend beyond theoretical debates, as they are deeply intertwined with human psychology. Light's actions reveal the dangers of unchecked power and the psychological toll of playing God. His descent into megalomania illustrates the corrupting influence of power, as his initial intentions are gradually overshadowed by his desire for control and dominance. This aligns with research on the dark triad of personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, which often emerge in individuals who wield unchecked authority. Conversely, L's skepticism serves as a psychological counterbalance to Light's hubris. By questioning everything, L avoids the trap of overconfidence and remains grounded in reality. His reliance on evidence and critical thinking reflects a growth mindset, characterized by the belief that knowledge and understanding are achieved through continuous effort and inquiry. This mindset enables him to adapt to Kira's ever-evolving strategies, even as the stakes escalate. The tension between Light and L also explores the duality of human nature. Light's vision of a perfect world reveals an inherent irony. His utopia requires the suppression of individuality and freedom, reducing humanity to mere pawns in his grand design. In contrast, L's approach, while imperfect, acknowledges the complexity and messiness of human existence. This duality is reminiscent of the philosophical concept of the Apollonian and Dionysian introduced by Friedrich Nietzsche. Light represents the Apollonian ideal of order and control, while L embodies the Dionysian embrace of chaos and unpredictability. Their battle of ideologies also forces viewers to confront their own perceptions of justice and morality. Would we support Light's vision of a crime-free world if it meant sacrificing personal freedoms and ethical principles? Or do we align with L's commitment to a flawed but principled system of justice, even if it means tolerating imperfection and uncertainty? These questions underscore the moral ambiguity of their conflict, as neither character represents an ideal solution. Ultimately, the clash between Light and L serves as a microcosm of broader societal debates about power, accountability, and the role of justice in human life. Their rivalry highlights the dangers of extremism on both ends of the spectrum, the authoritarianism of Light's utopia, and the potential ineffectiveness of L's cautious approach. In this way, their conflict transcends the narrative of Death Note to become a timeless exploration of the human condition. The rivalry between Light Yagami and L in Death Note is a cornerstone of the anime's enduring appeal. Their intellectual and ideological clash goes far beyond a simple battle of wits, delving into profound questions about morality, justice, and human nature. The legacy of their conflict continues to captivate audiences, sparking debates and inspiring reflections on the complexities of good and evil, the ethics of power, and the fragile line between heroism and villainy. One of the most striking aspects of their legacy is how Death Note challenges the viewer's moral compass. Light begins as a seemingly relatable character, a brilliant yet disillusioned young man frustrated by the inefficacy of the legal system. His initial use of the Death Note to eliminate dangerous criminals resonates with a universal desire for justice. However, as his actions grow increasingly ruthless, the audience is forced to confront the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive nature of moral absolutism. This transformation from an idealistic vigilante to a megalomaniacal tyrant serves as a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of power. L, on the other hand, represents an unwavering commitment to justice, even when the odds are stacked against him. His unconventional methods and eccentric demeanor initially paint him as an enigma, but his deep sense of empathy and unyielding dedication to uncovering the truth reveal his humanity. Legacy lies in his ability to challenge Light's authoritarian vision, reminding us of the importance of accountability, transparency, and humility in the pursuit of justice. From a psychological perspective, Light and L embody contrasting archetypes that continue to resonate with audiences. Light represents the shadow aspect of the human psyche, as described by Carl Jung. His descent into darkness illustrates how the repression of vulnerability and empathy can lead to destructive behaviors. Light's journey serves as a reminder that the shadow, if left unchecked, can consume even the most brilliant minds. In contrast, L embodies the archetype of the trickster figure who uses wit, creativity, and unconventional methods to challenge the status quo. L's skepticism and adaptability reflect the importance of critical thinking and open-mindedness in navigating complex moral dilemmas. His role as the foil to Light underscores the necessity of questioning authority and resisting the allure of absolutism. The psychological depth of their characters is further enriched by their shared sense of isolation. Both Light and L are portrayed as individuals who stand apart from society, burdened by their unique intellects and worldview. This isolation creates a paradoxical bond between them, as they are the only ones capable of truly understanding each other. Their rivalry is not just a battle of ideologies, but also a tragic connection between two individuals who, despite their differences, share a profound loneliness. The influence of Light and L extends beyond Death Note, shaping how anime and other media portray themes of morality and justice. Their complex characterization and the philosophical questions they raise have inspired countless discussions, essays, and adaptations. Their dynamic has set a standard for storytelling in anime, demonstrating the power of nuanced characters and thought-provoking narratives to engage audiences on a deeper level. Moreover, their legacy challenges viewers to reflect on their own beliefs and values. What does it mean to pursue justice in an imperfect world? Can the ends ever justify the means? How do power and responsibility shape our actions and define who we are? These questions remain as relevant today as they were when Death Note first aired, ensuring that the legacy of Light and L will endure for generations to come. In the end, Light and L's rivalry is not about victory or defeat, but about the ideas they represent. Their battle highlights the inherent tension between order and chaos, authority and freedom, and justice and vengeance. This tension is a reflection of the complexities of human nature and the societal structures we create. By presenting these themes in such a compelling and accessible way, Death Note transcends its genre, becoming a timeless exploration of the human condition. As we reflect on their legacy, we are left with a question. In a world where the line between good and evil is often blurred, what does it truly mean to be just? This question, like Light and L's rivalry, has no easy answers, but it is this very ambiguity that makes their story so enduring and impactful. If this analysis got you thinking, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Share your thoughts on Light and L's rivalry in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Death Note, stay tuned for more psychological analyses of your favorite anime characters. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the greatest battles are fought not in the mind,